Hello, how are you people? Hyped about the previews for the upcoming second set? I know I am. I'm Kojo and today I'm showcasing what's currently my favorite deck. Yes, you heard that right. All the stuff I've shown on the channel so far is great. I love Hydra and Gulrang and all the rest of it, but this deck personally takes the cake for me because first of all, it's a Kojo deck and also it's really fun while still being pretty damn strong. The idea for this deck has been going around for a little while now. As for myself, it was brought to my attention by my buddy Bravos Hatter. The idea is that we're building around the Bravos version of Foundry, the Axiom Bastion. You know how Haven is incredibly strong in Axiom? This is sort of the reverse of this. We're playing the Axiom Bastion in Bravos. It allows you to tap it so that once per round, a character you play from hand also activates its from reserve effects. And it turns out there are a lot of Bravos characters that can make really good use of this ability. And since we're in Bravos, we can also play Haven, which is just overall an extremely good card and adds additional reserve effects to our characters, which pairs up very nicely with the Foundry. So our dream scenario is to have both of these landmarks in play and just go off with beautiful value from all our characters. Some of my picks to play for this archetype are Foundry Armorer and Ordis Spy, both cards that I really like, and my personal favorite, Rare Ratatosker, which with Foundry out is a casual 1 mana 4/4/4. And if you also have Haven, it's even a 5/5/5 for just 1 mana from hand, and then another 5/5/5 for 3 mana from reserve afterward. So that's the kind of value spike we're looking for, but the big question is, how does this deck perform when you don't have Foundry out, or when it gets removed? As you know, decks that are built around one card like this typically have a tendency to fall apart once you don't have access to your core piece. We certainly know that can be a problem for the Lyra Festival deck, and also for decks like Lindiv or Akisha, which can depend very heavily on Ordis Carrier. Also keep in mind that in Altered, there is no mulligan like in other TCGs, so you are stuck with the first 6 cards you draw, and if there's no Foundry in there, you're out of luck. But for this deck, honestly, I think we're doing just fine. The thing is, even if we're not pulling off those big value plays with Foundry, at the end of the day, this deck is filled with very solid Bravos characters that can put up a fight even if you're not getting buffed like crazy. So in my experience, the deck can sort of play along even without Foundry or Haven. It's obviously not our main goal to do that, but it's possible, and that is a big plus, since normally the one huge weakness of decks like these is how well they do if you don't have your core piece out. As usual, you can find the full deck list in the wrap-up section later in this video, where I talk about the card choices in more detail, or as a link in the video description. I've got 2 really cool games for you to showcase this deck. The first one is against Waru and the Bureaucrats, and the second one is against Teija. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here we are, facing off against the scourge of the format right now in Game 1, Waru and the Bureaucrats. Actually, it's not that bad. From what I've heard, the metagame is shaping up to move away from the Bureaucrats again right now, at least looking at the stats for what's probably going to be played at the big upcoming French tournament. Nonetheless, Waru is a strong deck, as you all know, so let's see how we can match up against it here. Our opening hand is looking really good. We got Foundry, so that's probably going to be our turn 1. The problem with that is with the starting player. So if we just slam Foundry, Waru will definitely have his first Bureaucrat enter awake instead of sleeping and score an easy progression. So I'm thinking I might just rather play Sun Wukong on turn 1 and basically secure both sides together with the Buddha token. But in the end, I felt like Mana Eruption was too good to give up. I want that to be ready instantly, the very moment our opponent puts Robin Hood on the board. So I ended up going with Foundry, Eruption and Jin to make up for the lost mana due to Eruption. I run Foundry out right away. As I said, that makes the round pretty easy for our opponent, but it can't be helped. They apparently have Bountiful Meadow here, very powerful on turn 1 to give you that cost reduction for hopefully the entire game. And they also found a 2 mana Bureaucrat to follow it up, Monolith Legate, which as expected comes in awake. So overall it's an even trade here in round 1. For round 2, we're looking at Helping Hand and a Foundry Armorer. This is a pretty easy bench. Now we're set up to play either Jin and Armorer, or have Eruption ready in the case of Robin Hood coming down here. And indeed, our opponent goes ahead and just brings that into play right away, with 1 mana even left open from the cost reduction. Now, I was ready to remove this Robin Hood right away, which will probably make this round a 0-for-0 trade. But honestly, looking back on it, I'm not so sure that's even the right play. Playing the Foundry armor here through Robin Hood tax seems much better. We place the character in one expedition and the brass bug in the other, scoring an easy 2-0, which puts us just so far ahead. In the game, I didn't even consider that, since I had mentally prepared to remove Robin Hood beforehand, so that's what I ended up doing. But in retrospect, ignoring the Robin Hood here and taking both expeditions seems much stronger. That honestly makes it seem like our opponent should rather have had this Robin Hood enter awake instead of sleeping, to at least be contesting one expedition this round. But oh well, doesn't matter now. He's gone, and the round ends with no progressions for either side. Our next draws are pure gas again. Bravos Tracer just generally being one of my favorite cards, and Haven Trainee is another really nice card for this deck that really delivers. It's nothing overly special, but as a common, it gives you everything you want, so I'm definitely loving it as one of the common slots in this deck. In this situation though, we're looking to play other stuff, so I'm benching it here, and seeing as we're already 1 mana behind due to the eruption earlier, I made it a priority here to win that mana back by activating Foundry on the tiny Djinn from hand, meaning that it gets this boost right away without us having to play it from reserve again later. And it's also a solid body to contest the hero side with its 4 in mountain. Our opponent replies with the Monolith Legate, not sleeping. Having it enter a sleep wouldn't have made much sense here, since it won't sabotage anything so far, and this way it's trading expeditions with our Djinn, which isn't too bad for our opponent. I finished the round with our Bravos Tracer, trying to lock down the left side and present a win in both expeditions. I was hoping that would force our opponent to play their next Bureaucrat awake as well, making them lose out on all the overtime effects and the recruit from Waru that they would have gotten otherwise. Our opponent though doesn't buy into that. They decide to sacrifice this round and play a Thoth asleep to the companion side. I get what they're trying to do, but I felt like this was a big mistake. Playing that Thoth awake to win over our cat must be worth it here. But as it stands, we take 2 progressions, catapulting us into a big lead in this game while Waru is setting up to get these recruits. I don't exactly love our draws for round 4, Mana Eruption and another Foundry Armorer, but we can only activate our Foundry on one of these this round, so it's a bit awkward. You could make a case for putting an Armorer into Mana here and trying to play the other Armorer plus Mana Eruption, but then you get really blown out if they just don't play anything that's worth using Eruption on. So if anything, you would need to put nothing into the mana and have the second Armorer as a backup plan. But then you start really falling behind in mana, even without considering the additional mana you might lose on this second Eruption. So in the end I benched the Eruption. As you can see, Waru starts this round with 2 recruits, one from Thoth and one from his hero power. So with us being able to put 6/6/6 in power onto the board, it seems unrealistic we'll be able to play both sides this round. Our opponent starts off with Quetzalcoatl, asleep, on the companion side. Luckily for us, we're not a deck that's too much about resupplying or drawing additional cards. At this point, they still have lots of mana open, so I played the first Armorer without activating Foundry, just trying to tentatively contest the hero side and see what else they might play. And our opponent ends up playing an Ordis Attorney here, asleep, which is a pretty nice play. If nothing else changes, it's a tie, and they end up drawing the card. And even if we commit to the side, they still draw. For us, there's only the choice of which side we want to win here. And since the Ordis Attorney will trigger for sure, there's no reason for us to play on the companion side and make Thoth's ability trigger as well. So I just placed everything on the hero side, making this round another even 1-for-1 trade of expeditions. It's still basically a loss for us, since Waru managed to draw with Attorney and put 2 strong bureaucrats on the board sleeping, so he's starting out with a big presence into this next round. On the other hand, we're still managing to keep our 2-point lead in this game, so I'm feeling pretty confident. Our draws are Sambukong and Haven Trainee here. These 2 fill very similar roles in the deck, so I just kept the stronger one. The important part is that it's a character we can trigger Foundry on this round. Waru has again gotten 2 recruits, from his hero and from Quetzalcoatl this time. It's a bit awkward that we can only play 2 cards here, no matter how we set it up, but keeping Haven Trainee wouldn't have changed that, so it can't really be helped. Note that Waru is putting nothing into mana this round, so we're actually ahead now in that department. By playing Armorer like this, we're setting up to somewhat fight on both sides here, or at least we're trying to keep our options open. It seems our opponent doesn't want to give anything away yet though, opting to play another Quatl asleep to the companion expedition, so that side is still a win for us, but obviously they have 4 mana left, so that's not going to stay that way. It doesn't matter much what we do here. The round is looking like it will most likely be some sort of 1-for-1 trade again, so I just played the Sun Wukong to the left here to at least present a win on both sides and force our Waru opponent to commit some more stuff to the board without putting it to sleep. Now here they made an interesting play I didn't see coming. Sandman on the left side, sending their Quattle on the right to sleep and boosting it. That way, they managed to trade the Hero Expedition while setting up for a much stronger next round on the companion side, which they would have lost anyway, so it's a very nice play. Honestly, in recent times, I feel like Sandman is one of the strongest cards for Waru. That deck definitely is not just about Robin Hood or any other single bureaucrat. So Waru has set up for a strong round here, but on the bright side, we're now already at the point where we need only one more win to close out this game. So I'm not too concerned about these Quattles. We can just double down on the hero side and try to ignore them. The only problem would be if our opponent has an Isitok here. We draw Ordis Spy and Intimidation, which nets our opponent 2 recruits from the Quattle triggers. Sabotage sounds good in general, but we're trying to close out the game here, so I wasn't sure which of these cards we'll actually end up using this round. Luckily, we can afford to keep both in this situation. So our opponent is presenting 3 power on the hero side and 8 power on the companion side. As I said, their main out here is to have Isitok to shut down the hero expedition completely. Our opponent starts with an Urdis Attorney, and they're bringing it in sleeping instead of reinforcing the left side, so I really felt like Isitok was coming for sure here. We don't have a removal spell for it though, so our best option is to play the Spy and get rid of that Thoth in reserve. We also get a complementary recruit thanks to Foundry, which technically is enough to tie the hero side, but as expected, here is Isitok on the companion side. That means we can't progress on the left this round at all. And even though Isitok is asleep, we don't have enough power to contest the right either. So this means we have to pass and try our luck again next round. Isitok really does a fantastic job of just shutting down opponents like this. It's pretty crazy. However, in this situation I tried to go for a bit of an unusual play. I used this Intimidation on our own Ordis Spy. You can actually do that. Sending it back to my own hand to have it available again next round. At first that seems like a waste, but think about it. There won't be any good intimidation targets next round. Anything we send to hand, our opponent can just replay and will actually be helping them, since those things will probably have fleeting. The only other reasonable option is to use the intimidation on the sleeping attorney right now, which means our opponent won't draw the card of it this round. But if you think one step further, doing that would mean that they get the attorney to hand, so that basically replaces the draw they are missing. And meanwhile, we lose material, since we'd have to discard something from reserve. So with all those things considered, I thought sending the Spy back to my own hand was actually a pretty reasonable play. The round ends with 1 progression for our opponent and 2 characters staying in play overnight this time. Overall, I was very impressed with how well he managed to hold on here. We draw into Mana Eruption and a Haven Trainee here. You'll love to see that Eruption, since it means we can actually play for either expedition here and we don't need to worry about Isitok shutting down the left side. The way our mana works out this round, we'll have to bench the Ordis Spy though to be able to play 3 cards. I start out with Foundry Armorer from reserve, putting us to 6 power, which is presenting a win right now, so our opponent naturally responds with one of the Quattles from reserve. Now our problem is that on the companion side, we're only in water right now, so our Haven Trainee is pretty useless there. That means we're more or less forced to reveal our plan here, playing the trainee to the hero side, which should make it pretty obvious to our opponent that our last card is a removal for Isitok. For them, the problem now is that as soon as we remove Isitok, we're set to win both sides. So they need to have 2 more plays here that tie both sides. Quattle from reserve is enough for the companion side, but after we use Mana Eruption on Isitok, they need something else here to contest the hero side as well. As it turns out, they have it. Never lucky. They're 3rd Quattle of the game. That's precisely enough to tie down the right expedition and prevent our victory. After all is said and done, the round is a 1-for-0 for our opponent again, and here I missed a pretty crucial thing that you probably spotted right away. These 3 Quattles in reserve that look pretty funny should not all be there. 2 of these were fleeting, since our opponent had played them from reserve already that round. So instead of discarding down to 2 reserve Quattles, there should be only 1 there. Obviously a pretty important miss here. Those extra resources are sure to make a difference in the coming round. Sorry about that. If this makes you feel some primal urge to tell me in the comments how many errors are in my games, go ahead, do what you must. Even suggest Board Game Arena if you need to. You could also just be quiet though. Personally, I know this game would have been less interesting with just 1 Quattle in the reserve, so there, we're both happy. Meanwhile, we've drawn a Bravos Tracer and Haven for this hopefully decisive round. Unfortunately, our 2 reserve cards are both very expensive, so I felt it was best to bench the Tracer here. Keep in mind that we lost another mana orb just now when we removed Isitok, so this is necessary to bring us back to 8 mana this round. Our opponent is trying to slow play this round, it seems, with a handy Ordis Trooper. Now, here you might argue for playing Haven to see the resupply card earlier and have more options. But in the game, I felt it might be better to leave our opponent in the dark about the fact that we have another card draw available, so I wanted to play one of the 4-drops first. It's probably inaccurate, since those 4-drops from reserve would be boosted if Haven was already in play, but as it stands I played Wukong here. Coming into play is a 4/6/4, which is naturally better on the left than on the right, even with the Trooper already present there, since on the right we're only in water still. Our Waru opponent plays one of the Quattles, going up to 4 power, but not enough as it stands, since we're still ahead in Mountain. Now, the Haven trainee makes little sense on the right side, it just has 3 in water, which is easily countered by the second Quattle, so our options are to play trainee to the left and go up to 9 in Mountain, trying to win with that, or to play Haven and hope for a resupply, which is exactly 2 mana. But if you think about it, there aren't any cards in our deck for 2 mana that we can resupply here to make that line better than just playing trainee. So I went for that. Across our 2 characters we're at 9 Forest and 9 Mountain. And with the second Quattle coming into contest, our opponent only gets to 7 in both. Which means they're hard pressed to pull off the same feat as in the round before, namely having another play for at most 3 mana, which gets them exactly out of this. Their chances aren't bad, since recall that they drew an additional card last turn with Ordis Attorney, so they have some material still in the hand here. I can only pass, and as luck would have it, they have something again. Thoth, which for 3 mana gives our opponent exactly the 3 in Forest and Mountain to keep us from winning. And it even makes them progress to make this game a 6-6 match point. Incredible. And for us it's looking very bad now, since we're almost completely out of gas, while our opponent has some very nice reserve characters to play with, especially that handy 1 mana Trooper, which will make it very easy for them to slow play us and react to whatever we try to do. For what it's worth though, we've drawn absolutely stellar cards here. Tracer and Ratatoskr, you could not ask for more gas. Also we get Buddha this round, so we're definitely still in this. Our opponent decides to put a 9th card into the mana, which is pretty scary. And I start off with the Haven, resupplying a Bouncer, which isn't too bad here. As expected, Waru leads with the Ordis Trooper, and I felt this was a good opportunity to apply a bit of misdirection here. I play out the Haven Bouncer, it comes into play as a 4/4/4, but importantly, it uses up most of our mana. So I'm hoping that at this point, our Waru opponent calculates that we only have 1 more play. Probably something to contest the hero side, which is currently still empty. But little do they know, we have 2 very strong characters still left to play here. So our opponent goes with their Thoth from reserve. Maybe they actually anticipated a Bravos Tracer here, which this Thoth matches up perfectly against in this current board state. I was unsure what to play first. Going with Ratatoskr against the Thoth and just threatening to win both sides is probably not a bad idea, but in the game I opted for Tracer, which essentially ties the left side, with us still threatening to win the right. Now in this position I was surprised again by this Ordis Sandman from the Waru deck. This time he's using the sleep effect offensively on our Tracer, which basically makes this a character with a built-in beauty sleep, and we know how strong that card is in the decisive final rounds of a game like this. We have no other choice but to commit our Rata to the left side, benefiting from Foundry to make that come into play as a 1 mana 5/5/5, the highlight of our deck plan basically. And with that we're tapped out, so the rest all depends on our opponent. For 2 of their remaining mana, they play an Ozma here. Now as things stand, we're matched 4/5 to 5/5 on the left side, which is barely a win for us. While on the right side, we're currently in the lead with 6 water to 4 water. Our opponent needs just basically any character at all to turn around one of these expeditions, making this round an even trade and pushing us into a tiebreaker without Buddha. And to make matters worse, if they have charge here, which is in most Waru decks, they win both sides and just straight knock us out of the game completely. There's nothing we can do, and not only did our opponent have 1 card remaining in hand here from the start of the round, they also drew a second card with Ozma just now. So the odds are not on our side. But when it came down to having exactly the right answer for the 3rd round in a row, this time, finally, our opponent seemingly ran out of luck. They just passed. As it turns out, the card in their hand was too expensive to play, and the card from Ozma didn't help either, despite having so many potential hits in the deck. So this game goes to us. It was insanely close. Now looking back on it, if our opponent had just one of those quattles in reserve earlier instead of two, this game might have been over sooner, but we still managed to pull through just barely and get the win. Okay, for the second game, we're up against Teija, who, by the way, has established herself as one of the more popular competitive heroes. I'm not sure she's completely aces, but running her without Hydrocana has been pretty popular recently, and it's apparently a very strong deck. If you want to know more about it, check out Trickster's recent video about the top competitive decks. Now in this game, our deck was really able to showcase its power and what it can do if you have a nice draw. It's very convincing, so let's take a look. Our opening hand is a nice spread, and again we have Foundry available right away. As I said in the introduction, the deck doesn't completely depend on drawing Foundry in your opening 6 every game, but it does help of course. Even then though, there are situations where you don't want to play it right away as your first round. Often you'd rather drop down some cheap aggressive characters like Bravos Tracer plus Ratatoskr or Bravos Tracer plus the Buddha token to win both sides at round 1. But this game, it seems like we're definitely going for it right away. So I tap out for Foundry, and our opponent goes with Bountiful Meadow, funnily enough the exact same as our Waru opponent in game 1, even though that was a completely different color deck. Now luckily for our opponent, they apparently also have the 2-mana follow-up plant ready here. It's a Kodama for the hero side, which enters boosted from Teija, but of course it's sleeping for now, so the first round is a win for us overall, 1 progression going our way. And we head into round 2, where our draws are Wukong and a second Foundry. Now, if this deck was completely based around Foundry and it was essential, you'd probably have to keep a second copy here in case the first one gets removed. But as we've discussed, that's not really a case for our build here, so it's no problem to bench it here. For this round, we're looking at a 4-power Kodama already in play, which will make it very difficult for us to be aggressive here. Keep in mind, our Wukong from hand can win against this Kodama thanks to the boost from activating Foundry. But we have no other place, so it would just be an even trade of expeditions, which we might get more easily in a different way. Our opponent goes with a Dracana, boosted from Teija and anchoring itself. They have 2 mana left after this, so chances are high there is another play ready in their hands still. For us, this board state is pretty convenient. We can sneakily win the companion side with Bravos Tracer, which is a 3/3/3 and matches perfectly against the 2/3/3 Dracana. So I went ahead and played the Armorer with Foundry activated to the hero side, making it a 4/4/4 to tie this Kodama. At this point, Teija is forced to reveal that she doesn't have another 2-mana play ready to go, she just passes, which I guess doesn't bode well for us later in the game, but for now it's very handy, making this round another nice 1-for-0 win going our way. We're seeing Tiny Jin and Rata as our draws for round 3, which gives us a lot of flexibility. You could go many different ways here, but in the game I opted to bench the Sun Wukong, which allows us to play either Armorer plus Tiny Jin with the Foundry activation on it, or Armorer plus a 4/4/4 Ratatoskr. We don't need to worry about Sabotage, since not only are we on the play here, but Muna also doesn't have any Sabotage in general. It's one of the structural traits of that faction. So I lead with Foundry Armorer, but looking back, I'm somewhat liking it more on the hero side here. It would tie with Kodama, and we could maybe do something on the right afterward. Now after Teija adds Kodama to the right, it's 4/8/8 against 6/6/6, but that doesn't help us since we're not enforced on that side this round. Playing the Tiny Jin to the left now is a bit weaker, since it probably gets shut down by a couple more things from our opponent's deck here, but the 4 in Mountain is still powerful. As it turns out, I was worried for nothing though, since Teija opts to spend the rest of her round bringing a Spindle into play. This is the rare version, which not only protects her characters, but also boosts them between rounds. It's pretty strong generally. In this board state, not as much though, since on her side, nothing is anchored this round. And I guess it can be said generally that our deck isn't exactly removal heavy. The round is an even trade 1-for-1, and we're heading into a round without Buddha, where our draws are Helping Hand and Ordis Spy. It's unfortunate that we draw the Spy here while we're not on a play. I assume chances are very low that our opponent won't immediately replay this Dracana, but we'll see. The way our mana costs work out this round, we don't need to put anything to the bench here. Our opponent does end up replaying Dracana though, as expected. That's 3 power for us to overcome in water, which is the only terrain we're interested in on the left this round. Our boosted Rata can manage that, so I felt it was reasonable to play out the Ordis Spy to the right in this spot. It doesn't sabotage, but with our hand this round, you're never not playing this card anyway, so it can can't be helped. Our opponent's reply is a Daughter of Yggdrasil. That obviously beats our spy pretty comfortably, but it does draw us into a Haven, and this considerably upgrades our options this round, so I suppose this is one of the cases where the draw from Daughter really is a downside. I play the Haven right away, resupplying into an Intimidation, and our opponent passes. So now we have a couple of interesting options. But one in particular is to intimidate the Daughter of Yggdrasil. That would secure us a trade of expeditions, which benefits us since we're ahead in the game, and it can also sort of net us another draw later when this Daughter is replayed. But it's a draw for our opponent too, of course. And I would rather not have them draw into like a mana reaping for one of our landmarks, for example. Another nice option would be to bounce the Dracana, since it nullifies the anchoring, and it also leaves our opponent with no characters in play at noon, so the boost from Spindle would be wasted. Not to mention Dracana boosting itself between rounds too. The problem with that plan is that it still leaves us losing the companion side. Now, in the game, I opted for the third option, which is to win the left side with Ratatoskr, but honestly, I can't really say why. It looked good to me in the moment, but looking back on this now, I'm a bit underwhelmed, especially since we're overloading our reserve this way. One advantage of this line, though, is that we're moving out of the only water terrain on the left, so we're again at a much better spot terrains-wise. I'm not so sure about that though. Most of our characters like Ratatoskr or Haven Bouncer or the Spy, Foundry Armor, these are all characters with even stats across the board, so these terrains don't really matter as much to us in this deck. I ended up discarding the Intimidation from reserve, and our draws are Tiny Djinn and Rata for the next round. By benching the Tiny Djinn here, we go to 7 mana, enough to play our entire material, both hand and reserve, should we need to. I was thinking I might be able to go all out here, win a double progression, and force the game into a state where we only need one more point, so we can just focus everything on one side. But I'm not sure how realistic that plan is, with this Dracana getting double boosted into a 3/5/5, and the Daughter of Yggdrasil ready in reserve over there. I started the round out with Rata. Now that we have our dream duo of Haven and Foundry in play, that's again a 5s in all stats right now. So it wins as a progression in Forest against the Dracana. Our opponent replies with Lyra Thespian. This is a really strong card for Teija that I've been advocating over Yongsu, and it's seeing a lot of play now in online decks. It comes down as a 5s just like Rata. Luckily we can meet that pretty nicely by playing the Ordis Spy from reserve. Keep in mind that it gets boosted by Haven, so this pulls us up to 6s on that side. The fight goes on. Now Teija puts her reserve Daughter to the hero side, which made me think that she still had a 2-power character in hand, ready to come back to the right side later. But what she maybe didn't expect is that we're able to go over the top of her hero expedition here with our second Rata, which brings us to 10-10-10 against her 8-10-8. So we're taking that side due to Forest currently. I'm assuming this is definitely not the situation our Teija opponent wanted to be in. We're barely ahead on both sides, and she probably only has one play left, but hey, that's the power of our 1 mana 5/5/5 Rata. She ends up playing a Sneezer Shroom to the right here just to tie that expedition, which is exceedingly unfortunate for her, since with our 1 mana left we can untap the Ordis Spy and boost it to take that side again. So when the dust settles, it's all in vain for her, and we actually managed to secure that double progression I was hoping for at the start of the round. Overloading our reserve in the process, but that's obviously worth it. We can get rid of the helping hand and just push for a win in the upcoming round. And our draws are looking almost perfect for that purpose. Bravos Tracer, which is ideal for pushing power without restraint, and a Haven Trainee that gives us a beautiful way to utilize Foundry this round, making this a potent 2 mana 6/4/4. Our opponent leads with the Lyra Thespian again, so for us it seems more reasonable to contest the right side this round, even though we only need Mountain there. I place the Ordis Spy, and the response from Teija is a Verdant back, which pushes her to 7 power in Mountain. We can match that without Tracer. Now, against any other deck, you might prefer to play the Ratatoskr here, trying to get that card out of the reserve to protect it from sabotage, but in this case, with our opponent being Muna, we don't have to worry about that. And in fact, it's pretty crucial that we play the weaker character, the Tracer, first here. Granted, it doesn't make a difference if our opponent has another character to play here, but if their last play is a removal spell, we're in a much better place if our big Ratatoskr is still off the board at that point. The reason why I say this is because in the game, our Teija opponent's play here was in fact a beauty sleep, taking out this Bravos Tracer we had just played. But in this sequence, that doesn't cut it, since our Rata ends up winning. Had we played the Rata first, it would have been sent to sleep and the expedition would only have been a 6-6 tie in Mountain. But this way, we take the side, and with that, the game. Overall, that was a very smooth and pretty quick victory. This game really showcased how well this deck can run on a good day. And to be honest, what we had going for us in this game was in no way a Disneyland scenario. Our draws were all solid because this deck simply consists only of solid cards. If you draw a second copy of one of your landmarks, no problem, you just bench it as mana. Overall, a very nice win. So there you have it, guys. I hope I got the point across that this is a really nice deck, and in my eyes it's definitely the go-to option if you, like me, want to play Kojo as your hero. I showcased another one of his archetypes previously on this channel where you build him as a late game ramp deck, and that deck is fun too, of course, but as sad as it is, I don't think the ramp payoffs are strong enough in Bravos right now to make that game plan worth it, at least if you're interested in winning regularly and not, like me, just want to play Kybera. Now here's the full deck list, and I'm happy to say that there's a lot of wiggle room, maybe not in the card choices themselves because the card pool in the first set is so small, but in your choice of what to upgrade. Ratatosker and Haven Bouncer have very similar upgrades. If you're looking to be on the offensive, those are your picks for rare slots, since having that extra oomph with your characters will really matter when you fight for expeditions constantly. If you want to go a bit of a different route and play more solidly, you can put your upgrades into Mana Eruption and Haven instead. These will make the deck smoother, and I especially like Mana Eruption as a rare, since it drops the cost to just 2 mana, which is very relevant on removal spells generally. But then of course your characters will be slightly weaker. Overall, I think this deck is an example of the fact that Haven doesn't always have to be rare. You're fine playing the common too if you just rather upgrade something else. And as I said, there are a lot of different options here. As for uniques, if you're thinking about boosting this deck with uniques from your collection or from elsewhere, you'll want to look for cards with reserve abilities. For example, one of the uniques I play here is the Hatter that I pulled in my recent promo booster opening video. You can check that out if you're interested. In general, uniques that make you drop something from hand to reserve are also good, since your cards are also good from reserve, so that's another nice synergy to look out for. Guys, thanks for watching. This was Bravos Foundry. I've heard many people are really enjoying this deck and I feel the same way, so definitely give it a try if you can. Although I have to admit it might be a bit difficult if you don't have the Bravos versions of Foundry Armorer and Ordis Spy. Those cards I didn't really find good replacements for. If you find any, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to hearing y'all's takes on this archetype. I'll see you in the next video, which is going up as soon as I can, but these days I'm really busy going to all sorts of organized play events, so I'll try my best to get it finished soon. In the meantime, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.